Okay, so this is the situation. Last week I had a snafu, you know. Last week I started giving you a class that I'd given you the week before because I went home and I found what happened. I hadn't posted the class from 2 weeks ago, so I didn't realize that I had taught that part of the sikha. I started teaching it again. So I ended up having to teach something that was not entirely prepared. When you teach stuff that's not prepared, it's not good. You need to be prepared. Teacher needs to always be prepared. So now I'm prepared. And my beard is all over the place. I tell him to behave, he doesn't. Beard is a full-time job. Okay, shall we? Okay, so here's the situation. As you all know, where's Yisel? Yisel Chava.
She's here,
Yeah.
I guess, doing something.
What's your name again?
Joya,
No,
Frida.
Freda. Joy and Freda is the same thing. I have a daughter by the same name, Freda. So we're learning the story of what happened the day before Hashem gave us the Torah. According to the Gemara, and it's a little bit of a controversy, but according to the Gemara, we were given the Torah on Shabbos. According to the Gemara, we were given on Shabbos. That entire week. Again, following the one opinion that we're following, we're not doing the different opinions. Starting from Monday was a Chedesh. The Torah was given on the 6th of the month, which was the 7th day of the week. Every day something else happened. Every day something else happened. The Jewish people were slowly being prepared to receive the Torah from the Eibush. Of course, one of the most fateful events, which is the event that we talk about, is that the Jewish people rejected the idea that someone was going to speak to them on behalf of God. They said that we're making a deal with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're doing business with God. God's going to have to speak to us personally. God's going to have to speak to us directly. And the Lashon Rashi brings it from the Chazal, that say, it's not Cain, we want to meet the king directly. And that's very much a part of the story. That Yidden insisted on meeting Hashem directly, which means in practical terms, they insisted on becoming Nevi'im, prophets. And we all know how that worked out. As soon as they experienced the prophecy, they expired, and they brought them back, and they expired, and they brought them back, and they expired. And they finally told Moshe Rabbeinu, let's go back to the first plan. You'll be the prophet, and we'll be the Zlobos. That's the story. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu had a custom. Moshe Rabbeinu had a custom. His custom was that he only went up the mountain early in the morning, according to Rashi. Only went up the mountain early in the morning. It meant that Moshe Rabbeinu could visit God once a day. Moshe Rabbeinu could visit Eibush once a day. Early in the morning, he'd get up, he'd climb top of the mountain, he'd have a conversation with Eibush, he'd go down. The rest of the day, he was busy with the people. He wouldn't go back till the next morning. And he only spoke to Hashem from the top of the mountain. So there was never more than one communication with Hashem each day, because he only went up in the morning. So Tuesday, which was the second of Sivan, he went up and came down with a message. Wednesday, he went up and he came down with a message. Thursday, he went up and came down with a message. Friday, he didn't go up. Why didn't he go up? Because he was busy. What was he busy with? He was busy preparing the Jewish people to receive the Torah. I'm assuming, although it doesn't say, that Moshe Rabbeinu was involved in the mitzvah of Pinchas. He was teaching Jewish people how to become ready to be a prophet of God in 48 hours. Normally, becoming a prophet of God takes a lifetime. They had 48 hours. It normally takes a lifetime. Oh, okay. So Moshe Rabbeinu was busy. By the way, I want you to know that I gave you copies last week. I'm giving you new ones. I'm giving you new ones this week. Good morning. Oh, thank you. Thank you, girls. The copies I gave you last week, I don't want to say that you should discard them, but you should discard them. Because I did more work on the Sikha. Please distribute these.
I'll also say the shame for the punishing.
The old ones you should put away. You should put them in shameless. Because you're gonna get confused by having two of the same Sikha. There are staples here, but no stapler. Stapler. Oh, you have a stapler. Wow, this is phenomena staplers with staples. Extraordinary. Shall we? Okay, let's look. So Friday, the eve of Hashem giving us the Torah, Moshe was very busy. These are the extras of this here. Because of this busyness, Moshe didn't get to the top of the mountain. But what was he busy with? Well, like I said before, I would like to believe, although I can't prove this, that he was busy with teaching people Perishus, teaching people how you become a prophet in 48 hours, which is an impossible task. And it didn't work out so gishmak, and we all know the story. And he was also busy converting the Jewish people. The three sikhs that we learned before this one, I think it's three, all talked about the process of conversion. We were converted. What we learned is, number one, the most important part of the conversion is nasa v'nishma, the acquiescence, the acceptance of doing mitzvahs. But along with that, there were other factors. There was a bris milah, there was a korban, and there was mikveh. We also learned that their Gatus was incomplete for two different reasons. Number one, there's no korban until Mashiach comes, and we explained why that's not a problem. Number two, their Gatus was incomplete because they hadn't yet gotten the whole Torah. You cannot commit to the whole Torah until you receive the whole Torah. With all of these in Yom. So a lot of things happened on Friday. So Moshe was busy. So every day besides for Friday, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, as the Jewish people stood at the foot of the mountain, Moshe climbed the mountain, had a schmooze with the Eibishter, came back down, did what he needed to do. But as I told you before, he wouldn't go back up till the next day, except for Friday. This sikha is wonderful. What makes it wonderful is that I never learned it before. I'm embarrassed to say. And it hit me right here. Boom. Wow. It's a whole nother spin. It's a moidendika spin. It's an incredible spin. My only problem is that now that I learned the sikha, I know that I really shouldn't teach it now. I should first do nasa v'nishma, and then I should do the sikha. I'm teaching the sikhas in the wrong order. So, but I'm not. I prepared this. I don't have nasa v'nishma material ready. We're going to learn the sikha. After the sikha, we're going to go back to nasa v'nishma. Even though when I do the nasa v'nishma sikha, I'm going to point out to you that I really should have done that first. Because what's going to happen in this sikha is really, really counterintuitive. It goes against what you're thinking. And I'll tell you how. The Torah is given to us on Shabbos morning. Saturday morning, we get the Torah. This is Friday. We're preparing. All the sikhas that we've been learning about that Friday are pointing out how it's only preparatory, it's only preparational, it's not the real thing. Because until you actually get the Torah, everything you do before is leading to it, it's setting it up, but it's not it. That was the spirit that all the sikhas lived until now. Well, this sikha is the exact opposite spirit. This sikha is actually going to argue that on Friday, the day before the Eibusha gave us the Torah, what the Torah would be about when they would get it the next day is already being implemented. In contrast to the three sikhas we learned before this one, we talk about the conversion of the Jewish people and the deficiencies in their conversion because it was pre-Adar data. This sikha, which is also talking to the same days, talking to the same Fridays, actually going to focus on the opposite idea. At the day before we receive the Torah, we're receiving the Torah. One of the things that Rebbe is going to do in the sikha, in the part that we're not going to learn, is Rebbe is going to talk about Erev Shabbos and Erev Yom Tov, the day before Shabbos and the day before Yom Tov. And he's going to make an argument. The day before Shabbos is not just preparation for Shabbos, it's actually part of Shabbos. And the day before Yom Tov is not just preparation for Yom Tov, it's actually part of Yom Tov. That logic, which the Rebbe, of course, argues from a Lovdisher point of view, is going to explain the day before we received the Torah, in certain aspects, we were living as if the Torah was given. This is a different spin, it's a different angle on this Friday, on this day before Hashem actually came down on the mountain and spoke to every single Jewish man and woman and child and gave us the Torah from the sikhs that we had until now. Go ahead.
I didn't really get the timeline. If on Friday, we were supposed to explain them how to do each one, but then it's not 40 hours, because the next day we're gonna get the code.
You see, I didn't say that on Friday he explained the
Oh.
Pedishas, that he continued explaining the
Oh,
Pedishas.
okay.
From Thursday, he was busy with the Pedishas. You have to understand something, okay? I've been learning Chumash my whole life. I'm pretty familiar with this book, you know what I'm saying? I've been around the Chumash, if you wonder, number 55 years, I'm 59 years old. Since I'm 4 years old, I'm learning Chumash. And as a child, you learn it with a teacher, you learn a few lines and you're so excited. When you get a little older and you do that thing called chitas, right? Especially you have enough sefer, not just to read it, but to say it. How many times have I learned the Chumash in chitas? 40 times? At least 45 times, probably. So you become very familiar with the Chumash, very familiar with the Chumash. And one of the realities of being familiar with anything is what you call preconceived notions. You assume certain. You assume certain. Then, because of those preconceptions, you have sort of a box in how to take a word. Something happens, and you're triggered to think outside of that box. Something comes to you, and I was not thinking about this correctly, and then a whole new point of view emerges. You have to understand that I had this obsession with this idea that the Yidden asked Moshe Rabbeinu to become the Nevi'im, and Moshe Rabbeinu was so excited, and the Eibush tells him it's not going to work. But you must understand, I made that up. I made that whole speech. Doesn't say any place. It just says that the Eibush was planning. I'm giving you a new sikha because I did some more work on the sikha. Okay, so the one you gave me last week, I'm not giving you back. I'm just going to put your name on it. Look how I'm spelling your name. Wait a minute, did I give you my original? Did I just give you my original? How many pages? No, this is not original. This is a copy. Where did I put my original? Out of my mind or out of my mind? Here it is. Okay. I was told that this is going to be a poor turnout. This is pretty good for a poor turnout. No complaints. The Indian is Udin and the Shaman. Now, how many students have on the list? I'm teaching boys, it's extremely scholarly. It's really deep. And I have a class. My class is shrinking. I started with 20 guys, down to like 8. But I have a nucleus of boys, 19-year-old boys, who are really with me, watching with me. And it's the most heartening thing.
I think everyone was coughing.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna say, I think everyone was coughing, and really listen to everyone you say.
And I feel it. But as I told them the other night, I said, I've taught Chassidus years, for an entire year, where he had one student, 25 bodies, but one that would just do that. When you sit there and you see that they understand, they're on the trip with you because they're asking questions that are in context. They're just wandering off. It's so incredibly encouraging. And I feel the same way here. That's why I'm repeating this. Anyway, so I made that whole thing up, that whole drama, that Moshe, the Yidden had no idea what they're getting themselves into. Moshe thought it was a great idea. I made that up. I'm absolutely convinced it's the truth. But it doesn't say Chumash. This is a regular, listen, this is part of the class. That little piece of music begins at a certain point. It has to do with your attendance, but this is a weekly Shalom Aleichem. Wouldn't have a class without it. Amen. So that's why, Lee Marie, I'm answering your question. This is why I keep on saying this thing about Pedishas. Because I'm just freaked out by this. I have spent a lot of time learning the Torah, a lot of time learning the Torah. You know why? Because I spent a lot of time learning the Rambam. I learned all the Rambam Sfarim. I learned the Nevuchim. I learned the philosophy parts of the Pirush and Mishnayos. I learned the Pirkei Avos. I learned the letters. And the Rambam talks about the Nevuah over. Rambam's obsessed with Rambam. I almost feel like that Rambam felt that was his job to explain prophecy to the world. 5 times the Rambam repeats Nevuah at length, which is very out of character. 5 times, and I learned them all. So I'm in that world. And the way that Amman describes what a person needs to do to be a Navi, the way they need to live, who they need to be as a person, is so rare and so special. And here, every Jew in the world is going to become a Navi with 48 hours of preparation. That whole mindset, that whole story, it freaks me out. And I understand so completely the end of the story, it just plots. It couldn't not plots, The Abishter goes along, Moshe thinks it's a great idea, the Abishter goes along because the Abishter wanted it. But he also wanted it only for a little bit. So I keep referring back to it because of my wonder about this whole story. When I said that on Friday with teaching Kedusha, I made that up also. And he probably continued. The day before he started, but every second, you know what it means? 48 hours of a Kavanah, every second that they use their time so exactly. Most of them spend a lifetime doing that. They're 48 hours. 48 hours. Okay, so that's the answer to your question in context. This sikha goes in a different direction. And it's a wonderful sikha. It really is a wonderful sikha. Because in this sikha, the Rebbe is going to say the opposite idea of all the sikhas that we learned. The sikhas until now keep on pointing out that when you're preparing to get the title, it's only preparing, it's not the actual title. So the Ger is not a complete Gerus. Everything we learned is talking to that direction. Well, this sikha is going to say really like that. And the key player in this sikha, what makes the sikha most special, is that Moshe has to do it himself. Moshe has to do it himself. That's what's going to happen in this class, okay? Now, I didn't tell you anything, but if you have questions somehow, you're welcome to ask anyway. Okay, I'm going to ask somebody to drink a cup of coffee. Yeah, I'm looking sugar, please.
Not poison?
Not poison.
Is it the break?
Huh?
Is it the break?
No, this is not the break. This is, we haven't even, I haven't done anything. I'm starting from the beginning again, please, okay? Now pay attention to the Rebbe's words. Pay attention to the Rebbe's words. Now you have to use the new copies. The old copies are deficient. I spent a lot of time this morning making more lines, okay? We're learning a lot more than I thought we were. The Gemara in the Sugif about the Torah, the Gemara in the Masechta Shabbos, which tells the whole story how Hashem gave us the Torah. It's a few pages, it's not a few lines, a few pages of the Gemara that study the entire episode of Matan Torah. In that Gemara, Zog wants to follow. B'Sheni b'Sivan, on the second day of Sivan, all of Moshe Yarav, he went up to the top of the mountain, and he came back down. You listening?
Yeah.
B'Shlishi, on the third day of Sivan, Allah, Moshe on the mountain, and he came back down. But on the fourth of Sivan, which was on a Thursday, Allah, he went up the mountain, and he came back down. What about B'Chamish? What happened on the fifth day? Now remember, the fifth day of Sivan is the 6th day of the week. It's Friday. Bana Mizbeach. Moshe built a Mizbeach. Kediktiv, as the Pasuk says, Vayiva Mizbeach Tachas Ahar B'Rashi. Moshe built a Mizbeach under the mountain. The Hikdiv Allah carbon on that Mizbeach, he brought a carbon. Now, girls, you must understand. I don't know if you have access to these pages. Remember these pages, the Chumash pages, right?
Yeah.
What the Rebbe is going to observe is that there's 2 karbanos. There's 2 sets of karbanos brought on the same day. One set of karbanos was brought by the firstborn. The Ne'arim, I think he calls them. What do they call them? What does Moshe Rabbeinu call them? What do they call them? Na'arei b'nei Yisrael, the youth, the lads of Israel, the Tzachayim. There was a Mizbeach built, and on the Mizbeach, the Jewish people, I thank you very, very much.
I don't know how much.
I see, okay, I thank you very much. Dr. Rosen says, milk of a cow.
Correct.
Okay, this makes me a cow. Pardon me? Where are we?
fourth day, fifth day.
On that Friday, there were carbonas brought by the audit, by the Kohanim. The Kohanim then were the firstborn. Because until the Egel was made, the firstborn meant to be the Kohanim. And they brought many carbonas. Some of them were oil, some of them were consumed by the Deir completely, and some of them were shlomim, they were peace offerings, which is fascinating. Every one of the footnotes that only a Jew can bring a peace offering. A guy can't bring a peace offering. I pointed this out when we were going to the Sikh, which is another case in point, another example, where you see that Friday before the Torah was given, in some ways they were behaving as if the Torah had already been given, but they brought shlomim, they were peace offerings. But this Gemara is talking about something else. Number one, it's a mizbech that Moshe built himself. Number two, on this mizbech, he brought one carbon. Uno, adim, one carbon. Here's the problem. This Gemara doesn't say in Chumash. The Gemara sort of made it up. Friday, the 5th of Sivan, and I'm putting words into the Gemara now. Moshe did not go to the top of the mountain. Why? Answer the question. What do you mean why? He was busy converting the Jewish people. He was busy encouraging them to be Perushim. He was busy bringing carbonis of oil and shlomo. He's busy with a lot of stuff. So they come out, no, that's not what he's busy with. He built the Mizbech himself and brought one carbon on. So this whole Gemara is odd. First of all, what the Gemara says doesn't say in the Pasuk. Second of all, what the Pasuk says is enough. Why does the Gemara have to come up with something new? That on Friday, the 6th of Sivan, Moshe does not go to the top of the mountain, not because he's converting the Jewish people, not because he's busy teaching them about Prishas, not because they're bringing multiple carbonas, because he built them in back and brought one carbon on it. And the Rebbe is wondering, what's the story here? What's the story? What's this all about? Bottom of the first column, page 15. You guys all know how this works. You read it underlined, you're good. You step out of the lines, you're lost. The tir for Moshe Rabbeinu b'chamisha b'siv. The tir, the fatigue, the emotional fatigue, the exhaustedness of Moshe Rabbeinu on that Friday, the 5th of Sivan. To livalcha Moshe Rabbeinu was nit'elik v'laha, which was so strong. He was so preoccupied on that Friday, the 5th of Sivan, that he was not able to go up to the top of the mountain, go to the Eivishter. When the Gemara talks about what it was that kept Moshe from climbing to the top of the mountain and having another conversation with the Eivishter, what should the Gemara have said first? Dimming from Knesset to all of it is. The phenomena which we learned about in the last 3 whole sikhs of bringing the Jewish people into the covenant. First of all, it's a very important part in the Achonis and Kabbalah Satira, from preparing us to receive the Torah, because without that covenant, we're not Jews. That Jews was our Nasa and Ishmael today, right? And second of all, it was much more labor intensive. Moshe was busy with the whole nation, talking to them about mitzvahs, talking to them about prishas, bringing karbanis in plural, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet, the Gemara ignores all of that. The Gemara ignores all of the drama that happened on that Friday and singles out one point. And this one point is even hard to find in the Chumash altogether. Moshe built the Mizbech himself, and he brought on it one carbon. Let's keep going, okay? I said something which is not entirely precise, but I'm going to leave it alone, okay? There is the foot mash, bottom of the second column, page 50. The very fact that although Moshe was busy with so many other things, including many korbanos brought by the Lachayim, and the conversion of the Jewish people collectively, and the mitzvah Pisha, which I'm stuck on. Nevertheless, the Gemara insists that saying that the reason Moshe did not climb the mountain on Friday, the 5th of Sivan, is because he built him his back with one car, but that's all true. Adar chidish gadol. Then in the words of this Gemara, which have no basis in the Chumash, the Gemara is saying to us something we really know. What is now? When the Gemara says Moshe built him his back, and he brought one carbon on it, main the Gemara nish. The Gemara does not mean the Karbonas turn to page 16. Those sacrifices, the Chishtayin, the Peidush, and Pasuk, which are written explicitly in the Pasuk, that the firstborn brought, which are oilites, lashon rabbit, offerings consumed by the Mizbeach completely in plural, and shlomim lashon rabbit, peace offerings shared by the Balabayas, by the Eibishter, by the Balabayas, and by the Kohen, plural. Nor as Moshe alei not makim given apazut der korban. Although on that same day many korbanos were brought, the many korbanos are split. Some of them are oila, some of them are shlomim, but they're brought by the Bechayim. Moshe brings one carbon, and this one carbon which Moshe Rabbeinu brings, according to the Gemara, is so important that this was the reason why Moshe could not climb the mountain. Which is not in the Pasuk. So what we have here is a really odd phenomenon. The phenomenon that we have is like this. We all know Moshe was very good. We all know it was very good. The Torah records Moshe Rabbeinu's busyness. But the Gemara says Moshe was not busy with all the things that kept him busy. He was busy with something which didn't make him busy. One carbon on his back. But he didn't just bring the carbon. He built him a back himself. So the Rebbe says the psukim imply that Moshe built him his back, and the koyanim brought many karbanos oila, many karbanos shlomim. That's not what makes Moshe Rabbeinu do. That he got the Jewish people to commit to be Jews, not to the Ishmael. It's not what kept Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm saying this for the 4th time. He spoke about Perishas Mistame. It's not what he did. What was he busy with? Building his back, in one carbon, which is a separate carbon. And the Rebbe's obvious question is: so what is it about this one carbon that puts it in such a unique space that this is the reason the Gemara gives for Moshe not climbing the mountain? You understand the question?
Yeah.
I was a child, and I learned in a holy Torah. That was my school. Called Holy Torah in those days. Now it's called Holy Manah. Before Gimel Tam was called Holy Torah. After Gimel Tam, it's called Holy Manah. It's the school on the next 2 blocks over. The one with the 2,000 kids. Huh? They gave it the Rebbe's name after Gimel Tam. But that was they even had from 1957 until 1994. I can change the name. They have to give the school, even if they pay the beta. It's called, even the station is called. And when I lived in Al Qaeda, our teachers all spoke in Yiddish. Now the teachers all speak in English, which is another whole issue. But they were trying to teach us Yiddish as a language. They did a very poor job. It's one of the things they does not do well. Teach people how to read and write a language, which is another whole conversation. But when I was growing up, they tried teaching us Yiddish, and they even tried teaching us Hebrew. We had classes on Yiddish, classes on Hebrew, but they were taught by a teacher who didn't appreciate Yiddish and didn't appreciate Hebrew. So we didn't appreciate what he was teaching us. To teach a language, you have to enjoy language. A teacher who teaches Yiddish and Hebrew, if he enjoys Yiddish, you'll feel his pleasure. So one of the things that I tried to try was that there were 2 booklets given out from Americans called Unser Buch. Unser Buch were meant to be Yiddish textbooks. Okay, they were very primitive, go back to about the 50s. But they were meant to teach us how to read and write Yiddish. They would actually have pages we had to write essays. I remember the Unser Buch, but I don't remember doing any work. But in the Unser Buch, there's some really cute stories that are so cute that I saw the Unser Buch the last time 50 years ago, and I still remember them. And when I remind myself of these stories, I smile. One of the stories in the Unser Buch is called Drei Rolled mit a Bagel. Now, rolled, of course, is perfect Yiddish, right? 3 rolls and a bagel. Rolls is an English word, right? The Yiddish word is probably bulker, but okay. Drei rolls with a bagel. You know the story of drei rolls with a bagel? There was a kid whose name I don't remember. We're gonna call him Yossel because that's my name. Yossel was hungry. So Yossel's mother gave him a roll. And he ate the roll and he was still hungry. His mother gave him a second roll. And Yossel was still hungry. So his mother gave him a third roll and Yossel was still hungry. His mother gave him a bagel and Yossel was satisfied. And then Yossel thought to himself, what would have happened if I'd eaten the bagel first? Eat the bagel first, I wouldn't have eaten the 3 rolls. Why? Because the bagel would satisfy me. But I ate the bagel and I said satisfied, right? Now, this is one of those, that's the humor, you know. The way to explain the joke, or does everybody understand the joke? Drei rolls with a bagel, right? The 3 rolls didn't satisfy him. The bagel satisfied him, but the bagel satisfied him because he had the 3 rolls before. Moshe is so busy with 1,000 things. And the Gemara points to the bagel. The Gemara skips the 3 rolls. Moshe converted the whole nation. Moshe got them all to go to mikvah. There were many karbanos brought. Moshe, for the 5th time, was busy with Prisha. This is my presumption. None of that is mentioned in the Gemara. All the Gemara says is Moshe Rabbeinu also made a bagel. He built him his bayach himself and brought 1 karban. And the Rebbe says, I don't get the Gemara. I don't understand. There were so many other things going on. The Gemara ignores and focuses only on the bagel and says that because of this bagel, bagels are going to become a euphemism for a karban brought by Moshe Rabbeinu personally. Moshe could not climb the mountain and have a conversation with the Eibishter on Friday, the 5th of Sivan, the eve of Matan Torah, because of this bagel. What was so special about this bagel? What's so special about this 1 karban that it's singled out? You understand the question?
Yeah.
You don't? You do? Did someone say no?
No.
I heard 3 no's just now. Okay, no one said. Okay. Let's read it inside. Look inside. Nor, page 16, second line from the top. As Moshe Alein not Mak given Abazunde karban. Moshe brought a separate karban, and it was 1 animal. Which is not written in Pasuk. Okay? And because of that bagel, Moshe doesn't climb the mountain, and the Gemara completely ignores the 3 rolls. The Gemara should have said, roll number 1, that they built the Mizbeach. Moshe built the Mizbeach. Roll number 2, and this Mizbeach, they brought many karbonis which represented the games of the Jewish people. Some of them were even shlomim. Roll number 2, 3, I don't know what number we're holding by, They all went into the mikveh. Roll number 4, Moshe Rabbeinu sprinkled the blood on them, which made them into Jews. Roll number 5, they said Nasa v'nishma. Roll number 6, Moshe Rabbeinu talked about Precious. And the bagel, Moshe brought 1 karban himself. The Gemara ignores all the rolls, just straight to the bagel. Keep reading. But ain't this the Gemara the Hemshech HaSipur? The Gemara brings nothing that's actually written in the text of the Chumash. And instead, you see where I'm reading? By the number 2 in your Roman numerals.
Yeah.
The Gemara stellt rein an Nayim, the Gemara adds something new, welches steht nicht in Pasuk, which is not written in the Pasuk. So the question is, why does the Gemara ignore the rolls and speak only about the bagel, especially since the rolls are all recorded in the Chumash? And the bagel, which is the karban Moshe Rabbeinu brings the Mizbeach, is introduced by the Gemara. It doesn't say in the text of the Chumash. And that becomes the reason Moshe Rabbeinu could not make it to the top of the mountain to have a conversation with the Eibishter. I need to tell you, I talk to God from time to time. He always listens. Sometimes I also pay attention, but I never hear his answer. I never hear his answer. I talk to him, he listens, I'm sure. I also pay attention to what I'm telling you, but I never hear his answer. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he talked to God, you know what I'm saying? It was a 2-way conversation. When you learn Chumash Rashi, you get the distinct impression that Moshe's relationship with the Eibishter was a student to a teacher. And a teacher must answer his students. Rashi said, you learn Chitas this week. You learn Chitas this week, you learn Chumash. Did anybody learn Chumash this week? This week's Pasha is top heavy. Half the Pasha, more, 3/5 of the Pasha is in Sunday and Monday's Chitas. This is short. This is shorter. Even shorter. Okay, Friday's a little longer. Shabbos is again pretty short.
Very long.
Sunday and Monday was exceedingly long. You know why? There's a good reason. Because you want to give a Levi the aliyah of the golden calf. Because the Levi did not make the golden calf. So the only way to give a Levi the aliyah of Egel Azov, the whole pasha from the beginning till the Egel is to the Kohen, and then the whole story of the Egel is to the Levi, and then the rest of the pasha is little aliyahs because there's no Mepsugah left. The aliyahs are not distributed equally because you want to give a Levi because Levim is not the Mishtatim. In other words, to them it's not bad to read that story because their ancestors were clean from the Chet Egel, so that's how the pasha is arranged. Okay. Why am I saying this? I forgot why I'm saying it.
Tomorrow, add something that's not in the cluster.
The reason I'm telling this to you, oh, I'm getting old.
Three goals. More focus on not the three goals.
We got 5 or 6 rows. In the Bunzer book, that 3 rows, we had 5 rows. Okay, I forgot what I'm saying. As soon as I change the subject back, I'll remember it. I would be able to play it usually. And there's a reason why I brought that up, but I can't remember the reason why. What says in the Torah, the Gemara doesn't bring. And what the Gemara brings does not say in the Torah. The whole thing is odd. The whole thing is odd. It doesn't make any sense. So I forgot why I brought the Egel. I'm sorry for digressing with the Egel Azov. Let's go back to the text. The first move is mashma. This question itself proves that what happened on Friday, the 15th, the shayches to the achones of Matan Torah, in as much as preparing for Matan Torah is concerned. Now look at the next 3 words, Joe. Look at the next 3 words. Ubefrat hachones for Moshe. Specifically, Moshe Rabbeinu's personal preparation to be the intermediate to the Geras the Torah. It is emphasized, it brought out primarily in the minion from Banim Mizbeach, Moshe Rabbeinu Mizbeach. So a bunch of stuff happened that day. Like none of those things were the reason why Moshe doesn't climb the mountain. Oh, I know why I brought the Egel from. I know why I brought the Egel from. It was in yesterday's Chitas, or it was in Chitas of Monday. The Torah describes very dramatically how Moshe moved out of the camp. Remember that? The Jews they sin. And the first thing Moshe Rabbeinu does is triage, right? You have to keep them alive. So he arranges that the people who actually did the Egel should be killed one way or another way or a third way. And then he immediately goes up to the Eibishter and says, you gotta forgive him. And he basically blackmails God. If you don't like them, you don't like me. If you like me, you gotta like them. They tell the Eibishter this is not negotiable. It's such an interesting story. It's such an interesting. Hashem gave Moshe a job to look after the Jewish people. And Hashem says to Moshe, leave me alone. I'm done with the Jewish people. Moshe says, I'm not going to let you go. Hashem says, why not? He says, you gave me a job with the Jewish people. But I'm telling you to leave me alone. And Moshe says, sorry, sir. I already got the job. And I'm going to do it till the end. That's the exchange. Hashem says to Moshe, believe me. I told you to watch the Jewish people, look after them. Now I'm saying, stop watching people. Moshe says, you gave me a job and I'm going to do it. But Moshe says, but I am now telling you to cease and desist. And Moshe says, I only take instructions once. I mean, it's such a deep story, really. It's not for now. We'll talk about the Egel. I don't know, Doshin Pechet, when you mention the baby. But we're going to get to that story at some point in this syllabus. But one of the most interesting things is when this all happens, Moshe goes to war for the Jewish people, goes to war for them. He pushes Hashem as far as he could. But after he sort of succeeds, he does something very strange. He moves out of the camp. He separates himself. There's a duality in his soul. Moshe fights for the Jews and fights for the Jews and fights for the Jews and fights for the Jews. But he lets them know how disappointed he is. He keeps the Jewish people intact. He doesn't let the Eibush destroy the Jewish people, like Rashi says. if a stool with 3 legs cannot stand, with 3 legs being Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, how is the stool with 1 leg gonna stand? He refuses to let the Abish to get rid of the Jewish people in place. But at the same time, Moshe Lakach LeRafael, the Nagla Mechutz LaMachane Harachik, Moshe Rabbeinu moved away from the rest of the Jewish people a Tchom Shabbos, which is about approximately a kilometer. The amount of distance which you cannot walk on Shabbos, minus an inch, so they can walk. He's literally as close to the camp, far away from the camp as one is, that you could barely walk on Shabbos that distance. And he remained isolated for months till the Mishkan is built. And Hashem tells Moshe, again, very poignant stuff. Hashem tells Moshe, Im harav bekas, v'atalmid bekas, mi yikaravim. The teacher is angry, the student is angry. Who's going to be nice to them? Hashem says to Moshe, now I'm angry. You got to be nice. Tomorrow you'll be angry, I'll be nice. And Hashem tells Moshe, we can't both be angry at the same time. Someone's got to think about it. So how angry was the Abish then? If he tells Moshe, Im harav bekas, v'atalmid bekas, I'm angry, you are angry, who's going to be makaram? Then if you're angry, what do you care? What's the answer? He wasn't exactly angry, you understand? But it's a very powerful story. Moshe moves out of the camp. He fights for the Jews with everything he has. He sacrifices himself recklessly. But then he moves out. And the Torah describes very beautifully the reverence, the derech that the Jewish people have. Moshe would get up to walk, and everybody stopped. And they stood and they watched him. He was a kilometer away. It's a great distance. 2,000 amas, about 3,000 feet. Well, a kilometer is over 3,000 feet. But they could see it, right? It was the desert. It was flat. They could see him. And nobody moved. Nobody turned away until Moshe disappeared inside his tent. And the cloud came and stood at the entrance to Moshe Rabbeinu's tent. Moshe Rabbeinu's home was called Ohel Moed, the place of meeting, until the Mishkan would be put up. And then the Mishkan, the tabernacle, would become the Ohel Moed, the place of meeting, for the few months after Yom Kippur, when Moshe came down the mountain for the 3rd time, until they built the Mishkan and the Abish, they moved into a permanent dwelling. Moshe Rabbeinu's home was called Ohel Moed, the Abish's house. So it was a meeting place. So the Jews would watch the Shekhinah come down in the form of a fire and stand outside his tent, the cloud, and they would watch Moshe Rabbeinu go in, and they knew that the Eibishter and Moshe Rabbeinu were commiserating, they're fabreging, they're schmoozing. And they would say to one another, Asher Yelud Isha, how fortunate is a human being that he's so certain that when he goes into his house, the Eibishter is going to follow him in. When you learn Chumash Rashi, just Chumash Rashi, in the various places in the Chumash, Rashi wants to give you the impression that the Eibishter was Moshe Rabbeinu's school teacher. Later on, the Eibishter was Moshe Rabbeinu's Rosh Yeshiva. And later on, still, Moshe Rabbeinu's Rav. And a teacher, and Rosh Yeshiva. And a Rav cannot say to the student today, I'm annoying. We talk to God all the time. Does the Eibishter answer? I'm sure he does, but we don't hear it yet. Moshe and the Eibush had a relationship like a person talks to a person. Moshe asked a question, he got an answer, period. Why? Eibush was the Melamed and Moshe is the Talmud. A teacher has to teach a student. It's a very powerful story. Hashem talks to Moshe like I'm talking to you. Not that he saw him, but that Moshe Rabbeinu's teacher was the Eibush, and when Moshe Rabbeinu had a question, you know the answer, you go to the Eibush and ask him, and Eibush will tell him what to do. Very simple. So Moshe's relationship with Eibush is very, very unique. Very, very special. Huh? And yet, Friday morning, Moshe cannot get around to going up the mountain to meeting his teacher. Now, if your teacher was God, I think you'd show up to the appointment. You think? You think? Maybe. If your teacher was God, but you could not communicate with him, how would you miss a meeting? I mean, I don't know what the girls are into, but if my teacher was Babe Ruth, I'd show up to the meeting. Lou Gehrig, Reggie Jackson, anybody who's important to me? Who's important to me? A sports hero, an entertainer, a singer. Everybody's got heroes. Moshe Rabbeinu's teacher, the Eibishter himself. And they communicate, and he can't get up the mountain for the meeting on Friday, busy. What's he busy with? Many things. But the Gemara seems to forget all the bagels, all the rolls, and focuses only on the bagel. And the Rebbe's question is why? Now, goes, we need to pause and break because it's a very big mitzvah to make people feel happy. So we have to break and pause and eat because it makes people feel happy. But before I do, I want you to guess the chap of this season. The chap, I mean, what is the aha of the season? What is the Rebbe going to do that's going to make us appreciate why this bagel is so important? Okay? The hint is, Moshe build a mizbeach and bring one carbon. Try to guess. I know this is not fair. Try to guess what is the Rebbe going to do? What's going to be the chiropractic shift? You know, feels so much better. Yeah. What is the Rebbe going to do at this point in the Seicha? Oh, now I understand. What is going to be the chiropractic shift? What they call the JLI world, the paradigm shift that's going to make you appreciate why this is so important that all the roles are like that and we think only about the baby. Yes.
Moshe is his carbon stood for everyone's carbon, and he stood for every person building his bath.
That's not a paradigm shift. That's obvious. I need a paradigm shift. A paradigm shift. A paradigm shift. A paradigm. But the answer is, girls, it's
No.
not about the carbon. It's about the mizbeach. That's the chap. Moshe Bonham is bad, Hikkel of carbon. The Hikkel of carbon is secondary. It's the mizbeach. That's the chap. The Gemara misses all the roles and goes straight to the bagel. But the bagel is not the one extra carbon that Moshe Rabbeinu brought and did all the carbon. It's the altar, and he builds it himself. He builds it himself. I didn't say this before, but I'll say it now. There was only one mizbeach. There were no two mizbeachs. This mizbeach that Moshe built was the mizbeach on which Moshe Rabbeinu brought one carbon, and it's the same mizbeach on which all the other carbonates were brought. The chiddush of the Gemara isn't the carbon. The chiddush of the mizbeach of the Gemara is that this mizbeach Moshe built all by his lonesome. And I will see you in 5 minutes. In Mirza Hashem. I should say in Mirza all of you. Hashem won. Okay. Jak minut, пожалуйста. Nobody speaks Russian.
How many different parts and you'll have a lot more.
Yeah.
Depends the day you are.
My dad told me I need to be humble with all the Torah learning, and I go, don't worry, I have Rabbi Paltiel tomorrow.
I'm humbler than you. I'm even more humble. Yeah. It's such a good chap. It's such a good chap.
It is, that's why I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
But I'm just teaching the text.
That's it. I mean,
Rebbe.
if you want.
You're right.
I forgot what I need any more for Navi though. Oh, I did. Sometimes I get something from what she's saying and I just.
I know. But yesterday was just so much about squat, not just.
Oh, I wrote about how a king have to have,
Only
fine and shame.
8 seasons.
Doesn't have to have.
No, like
Is
maximum.
entitled to have.
Oh, yeah, we could say he was 982 wide.
And then also about the horses, and then he wouldn't let him Hashem to go back.
To
Give to the
try.
horses. That's what I wrote.
1,000 more, right?
Oh, and you can write, yeah, you can write about how, he thought that's the right thing, but he didn't know so much English, you know, the weekend, you know, yeah.
Thank you, Moshe.
Really, you coming to the pool party?
Talking to me? It's a girls only event I was told.
Bailey.
Huh?
Bailey.
Oh, Bailey.
Bailey. Because some teacher doesn't need me. Hashem. He does.
That means she's not coming. We met her at the doctor's office on Tuesday.
That's how I knew Shayna was sick. You met the baby?
Yeah.
She's so cute, right?
Beautiful.
So,
Oh, no, I'm good. I got this. But yeah, leave it here. We have 5 minutes. I'm coming.
No, not by that.
Thanks for that. Proud of you.
You can put it in the-
That's you. What else is not anything?
No, I'm cool, if you can say who he's doing for.
Is that Ariel Alonso? I have my friends that read. I'm going to go and I'm not going to play, but oh, that's so sweet. Is that Ariel Alonso? He does the answer my first answer my message. I'm going to have to do it to get a picture of me and them. No. But,
You want me to say, but you're smiling, I'm not gonna review you.
Oh, yeah.
Change the blessing, you go healthy and happy and successful. Oh, it's so tough.
Yeah, but like, what?
Joya.
No, no, we didn't let you get sick. We're not allowed to call it not sick.
You can get sick. It's not-
No, I remember you in. Makes sense, I can get that. Even though we might last time and you probably think,
Yeah, because you're sick.
no, we literally both got sick. I'm not terrified of you.
Dude.
Amazing.
I have throat spray if you want.
What do you need?
It's so disgusting.
I mean, why are you calling that? What is it? Wait, what's his name, sir? Was it name? No.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so good, I have that.
Really? Little one.
No, 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 it's, it helps me already so much.
Say it again.
I think it's our friend. I think we should so good.
Oh, yeah. You want something? We have, I think we have it, yeah.
Okay, Moed Aver, where's the Hinderlachis? 5 minutes. Yup,
Yeah.
yeah, now, listen. Listen. You know what the chap is gonna be? The chap is like this. Moshe did a bunch of stuff, a bunch of roles, yeah. They do not by themselves justify why Moshe Rabbeinu missed the meeting. Because having personal intercourse with the Eibishter is reason enough to find a few minutes, especially if he went up before everybody woke up. The Mizbeach is the reason. It's going to take the whole Sikha to explain why building a Mizbeach is so cumbersome on Moshe Rabbeinu that it holds him back from going up to the mountain. We're going to find out that it's not about how hard he worked, it's about what the Mizbeach means. You know why you put a carbon on the Mizbeach? It's all backwards. There's a concept in Judaism called Kayet HaMizbeach. Kayet HaMizbeach means you're not supposed to leave the Mizbeach. If you work in the Beis HaMikdash, you're a Kayet, right? So they bring carbonas all day long. In the morning, they bring carbonas for the community. At night, they bring carbonas for the community. And the rest of the day, they bring for other people, right? What happens if on a particular day, it's a slow day, not that many people come? There was a special fund with money that they bring carbonas, oil up, just to keep the Mizbeach busy. Because it's nice for the Mizbeach to have carbonas on it. You listening? The carbon that Moshe Rabbeinu brought is the category of Kayet HaMizbeach. Kayetz, to keep the Mizbeach busy. Kayetz is finished. Kuf Yud Tzaddik, and the word Kates, like end. Meaning, not only is the chap of the Sikha, chap means the aha of the Sikha, this paradigm shift of the Sikha, that's about the carbon, the Mizbeach, not about the carbon, but the only reason for the carbon is because of the Mizbeach. Moshe built a Mizbeach, that's what keeps him from going on top of the mountain. He put a carbon that Mizbeach, because if you build a Mizbeach, you should bring the carbon. But the focus is so on the Mizbeach that it's not the Mizbeach serving the carbon, which is what you would normally say, it's the carbon serving the Mizbeach. You got it?
Yes.
Shall we return to the text, please? When someone says, shall we, you mean you better. Page 16, first column, third underline, the fun group is matched with that itself indicates. As the Uftu for Hamishi B'Sivan, what makes Friday, the 5th of Sivan special. B'Shayches to Hachonis for Matan Torah, and they relate the preparation for the beginning of the Torah in general. Ubefrat Hachonis for Moshe, and especially the preparing of Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Dricht ois beikir is underscored primarily in the Minyan of Bottom is Beah. Building an altar, not bringing the carbon, building the altar to its Moshe off the mountain. Next column. The bow, as in the binyan from them Mizbeach, the building of this Mizbeach, and Moshe doesn't let anybody help him. This I'm doing myself. Sam Sapojik, this I'm doing by myself. Don't help me. Right? Is given achshivas yuchedes, has a unique value, worthiness. B'shayches to Matan Torah, the relates to Hashem giving us the Torah. Is the lakama that we're going to explain later. The river, which is why has the gemus sein durch Moshe Rabbeinu dafkin. Moshe had to build the Mizbeach himself, he couldn't let anybody else build it. He built it personally. Because the preparation for Asini required that Moshe build it personally. Okay? And when next underline, when the Gemara is Moshe, the Gemara then add the hikin of Allah carbon, they brought a carbon that of Moshe Rabbeinu what Alain Makav given as carbon of them is back, that Moshe personally put a carbon, this is back, even though that same is back, the pashtas, had multiple other carbonas brought on it. The carbonas that the Adar brought, when you learn the Chumash, it seems to be one Mizbeach. But still, Moshe brings the carbon on top of those in addition.
Why did it seem to be one there?
You got this?
Yeah.
Take it out.
No, I'm not one.
You have it? Yeah, so it's Friday, 5th of Sivan. You found the place?
Yeah.
Vayash came up, get up in the morning, Vayiv Mizbeach, Kachat, so he built Mizbeach near the mountain, right? Ushtem Esem, I say the 12 monuments, the Shneim, Asa Shifti Yisrael, the corresponding 12 Shem. Next pasuk, Yishlach Nani, and it's already sent to the firstborn Jews, Vayalu Elah, the Yisrael. Now you tell me, Does it sound like it's put on the Mizbeach he described in the Pasuk before, or it's different? I translated for you. He got up in the morning, built the Mizbeach, put up 12 monuments, and then he called the Koyanim, he called the Koyanim in Karbanis, so they brought some Karbanis which were completely consumed by the Mizbeach, also known as Oilos. Some Karbanis which we and God and the priest shared, also known as Shlomim. So I'm asking you, does that sound like they put it on the Mizbeach as described in the Pasuk before, or is it different? Same as it. So the Mizbeach that Moshe Rabbeinu built, I believe, is the same Mizbeach that they used. The key to Moshe's contribution is the building of the Mizbeach itself. Yevat, right? Yevat, that's Fragis, yeah, Yevat. Why does Moshe Rabbeinu also bring a carbon if the Kohanim brought so many Gemara on the Mizbeach? The answer is when you build a Mizbeach, you bring a carbon on. But the carbon is serving the Mizbeach, not the Mizbeach serving the carbon. The key was the Mizbeach. When you build a Mizbeach, you can put a carbon on. When you build a Mizbeach and you focus on the Mizbeach, the carbon is secondary. One second, Peter, will be the words. The shleimus from a Mizbeach is a Mizbeach is only whole and peaceful and complete. Then a minute that eat macro carbon, we put carbon on it. So Moshe brings one carbon. The one carbon is a symbol. This Mizbeach that I built is complete. But Moshe Rabbeinu's focus is not on that one carbon. The Yidden's focus is not on that one carbon. But the Yidden's focus on many carbon. The novelty is that Moshe built the Mizbeach, and the carbon is secondary to the Mizbeach of Moshe Rabbeinu. You got it?
Yeah.
Now we haven't explained the logic of it, but we have established the fact that the key thing here is the Gemara. What are the Gemara say? The Chamishi Bona Mizbeach. On the fifth day, Moshe built the Mizbeach. Pick it up on a carbon on it. So the Rebbe says that Rashi is implying that the most important thing was building the Mizbeach. The carbon is just there to make the Mizbeach complete, but it's not really the priority. Find the page, please. Now we're on page 20. No, page 19 at the bottom. 19 at the bottom. I apologize. You were speaking a lot. Benegea to Matan Torah. When it comes to Hashem giving us a thing,
No, I lost you.
bottom of 19, the last words of page 19. The last words of page 19. You see them?
Yeah.
Benegea to Matan Torah. As it relates to Hashem giving us, and that's on page 20. Bishishi Besivan on the 6th of Sivan. Okay. Says the Rebbe, are shown in Chamishi Besivan that already on the 5th of Sivan, Erev Matan Torah, they were given. Of the ungeheben, the Inyanim from Matan Torah, the idea that we're not going to happen until after Torah was already given was started. Now, who was here from the beginning of the class? Who was here from the beginning of the class? What did I tell you at the beginning of the class?
The preparation, Arab shop, like, the Rebbe tells how Arab Shabbos is like, Shabbos.
All the sikhs until now were pointing out how what they did on Friday was not the real thing, right? They did Gatus, but it wasn't a complete Gatus. They're missing always something. The Rebbe pointed out how all the preparations they did for Har Sinai were, quote, only preparation. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This sikh is the exact opposite. So on that Friday, there was one thing that happened, which is that had already been given. So until now, all the sikhs that we learned are describing how we got ready. What they bring out that even though it's getting ready, it's only getting ready. It's not yet the actual getting the Torah, because the actual getting the Torah, which would happen the next day, is higher than all of it. But that was true till this sikh. Sikh is reversing that. This sikh says, the sikh says that there was one thing that happened on that Friday, the eve of Hashem giving up the Torah, which is as if the Torah had already been given. You know what that one thing is? Much building the there. Or does of the Adar. This explains. is them the fact was the Karbonis from Hamishi Besiv. That the Karbonis brought on that Friday, the day when they were given. You can't have them given when Karbonis to have the same halachic status as the Karbonis the Jewish people were being Atatera were given. It's all about the Mizbeach. Moshe built the Mizbeach all by lonesome. This one act, this one thing, the Mizbeach that Moshe builds, is built on Friday before the Torah was given. When Moshe built that Mizbeach on Friday before the Torah was given, that Mizbeach is as good as any Mizbeach built afterwards. And accordingly, all the Karbanos brought on that Mizbeach are as if they're brought after Matan Torah. There's a bunch of details to these proofs that I'm skipping. I'm not learning those here with you, okay? The one aspect that I will point out is what I told you earlier, the fact that they brought the one Shlomim. Peace offering. Remember I told you a guy can't be the Karban Shlom, only a Yid can. So one of the funny things about the Chumash was that the Torah had not yet been given, they're already bringing peace offering. A peace offering means what? That you and God and the priest sit at the same table and break bread. Now sitting with the priest and breaking bread is okay, but sitting with God is kind of uncomfortable. But that's what a Shlomim means. Goyim can bring Karbonis. Goyim can bring Karbonis in the Beis Hamikdash. You can help a non-Jew build a bed any place you want. You can't help him do it. You can teach him how to do it. He'll do it himself. Because we're not going to bring Karbonis after the Beis Hamikdash, a non-Jew made. Okay, but there's no such thing as sitting by the same table and sharing food with the Yiddish. A carbon is a sacrifice. You give it away. Only a Yid has this gift of Shlomim. So how did they bring Shlomim the day before? What's the answer? The Mizbeach. The Mizbeach. Moshe, all by himself. That Mizbeach has a post-Matan Torah authority, has a post-Matan Torah halachic status. So although the Torah not been given, as far as this Mizbeach is concerned, it's the one place where the Torah was already given. So the Karbonos, but not Mizbeach, are able to conform to the rules that can be after Matan Torah.
In the whole world, this is the only thing. You're saying the only.
Well, Bris Milah, same story. Why did Avraham Avinu use Bris Milah for a shvuah? Right, he wanted to make his servant swear because he keep his word. He told him, "Simla, it's not sneistic." Right, when you make an oath, how do you do it? You put your hand on the potato. That's what you do. Avraham says to Eliezer, "Simla tachsirechi." Why? Because by Avraham Avinu, the Sefer Torah they had was the Bris Milah, the only physical thing that had Kedusha. So there are other things, but not a lot of them. Moshe's thing was the Karban, the Mizbeach. Moshe's thing was the Mizbeach. This Mizbeach had a post-Matan Torah status. The Karbanos are secondary to the Mizbeach rather than the Mizbeach being secondary to the Karban. Usually, when you bring an altar, you put Karbanos on it, the point is the Karbanos. Not here. Here you're building Mizbeach, you're putting Karbanos on, but it's all about the Mizbeach. Because this Mizbeach, this artifact, this item, which Moshe built with his own two hands, all by himself, and nobody helped him, has the post-Matan Torah status. And therefore anything put on the Mizbeach also has the post-Matan Torah status. Al Pizeh is Eich Farenfim. It's also explained. Because the Gemara Zah, that when the Gemara talks about why Moshe Rabbeinu is not up the mountain, the Gemara ignores the rows and speaks about the one bagel. Why? Not because the Gemara forgot all those other things that's so important, because all those other things are not yet what we have in our religion because they're only preparations. The bagel, the Mizbeach, not the carbon. The Mizbeach was like a carbon that's brought after the Torah is given. The Chamishi Bona Mizbeach of the church is brought from the Mizbeach. When they're Montnish, without mentioning, as Moshe Machnes given the Yidden, the B'nitz B'chul, the Moshe Rabbeinu brought the Jewish people into the covenant. And the question is, why not? The answer is as follows. Anything that the Jewish people measured together to enter into the covenant, and the essence of the covenant, like we learned in the last three sikhs, is Nasa v'Nishma, the form of the covenant, the Bris Milah, and the Karban, and the Mikveh. Says the Rebbe, I know the Achonim and Talmid only preparation. And they're praising the Jewish people's side, they're preparing themselves. Wasmach, Zei, Muchshel, So Kabbalah Satera, it prepares the Jewish people don't receive the Torah. Aber das ist nicht kein Teil von Matan Torah Gufa. All the things done on that Friday, and there was a lot of stuff going on. There were many rows that kept Moshe Rabbeinu off the mountain. But all of those things were just preparation. If that was the sum total of what happened that Friday, Moshe would have found 5 minutes to sneak up the mountain to have a conversation with David. For the roles, he wasn't going to be meeting the Abish. Okay? Matan Torah kommt from Maila. Matan Torah comes from heaven. B'derech matana is a gift from the giver. And everything they did on Friday was not about the giver with a capital G. It was about the Jewish people who were receiving the Torah. So all of the things that kept Moshe so busy could not have kept Moshe off the mountain. He would have found a way to get up and have a conversation. You know what holds him back? The Mizbeach. And it's not because it's so time consuming, it's what the Mizbeach means. The Mizbeach means we're going to make the physical world holy. Masha'engen the Mizbeach, the post of the Mizbeach. Shabon and Moshe with Moshe Rabbeinu built, so the Rebbe sich showing angesetzt, it demonstrates. The dogmas to Ula for Matan Torah after something which is like what would happen when the Torah was given, that the Eibishter would break the barrier between heaven and earth and the heaven, and we can make physical stones holy. On their fire, which is why, is thus this. Not the carbon Moshe brought the Mizbeach, but the Mizbeach itself. Achidish ikri v'chamishi b'sivan. It's the most novel aspect of what happens on that Friday, the 5th of Sivan, and that's what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is not saying when Moshe Rabbeinu was so preoccupied that he couldn't climb the mountain. The Gemara is saying Moshe Rabbeinu did something which is like post Matan Torah, which justifies that he shouldn't climb the mountain. Moshe could have found the 15 minutes or half an hour need to climb the mountain. He didn't do it. He didn't do it because this day didn't represent it. This day represented something else. The reason he did it on the mountain because he was there. It was there, represented the breaking of the decree between heaven and earth.
Would you say that last sentence again? You would say it's represented.
To bring it together heaven and earth. So the tachlis for Matan Torah, the purpose of Hashem giving us the Torah is, but do of them that through Hashem giving us the Torah on earth is the giving of them Torah. We human beings, we Jewish people, human beings given the strength. To machen von Sachen, Hefte von Welt, take something from the physical world and make it Hefte, the Kedusha, and make it holy. You know this, right?
Yeah.
Before Matan Torah, you could take sticks, use them for tefillin, and when you finish the tefillin, take those same sticks, use them for posts to make a fence, because there was no kedusha in the chayfet, just in the person. No kedusha in the item, just in the person. Matan Torah changes in that now when we do something physical, the God thing is coming from the physical thing as well, right? Or Koloshan Hayedur, like the famous expression, to satisfy the purpose of the creation, which Platz is laying his body created for the penance, to make him let's be a home in the lower story. Half of 21 now. When a deading this idea that when Zichel Gashmi is of taking the physical world and refining it, Shtei Begoli is revealed in the meaning from Mizbeach, on the idea of the Mizbeach. Yes, and once you have a Mizbeach, you have top carbonas, but appreciate that in this scheme, the carbonas are not the Mizbeach, and not serving the carbonas are in the Mizbeach, because the whole idea was you take 12 stones, you put them together in a certain shape, and they serve in the Mizbeach, those stones become holy. That's what Moshe was doing. Moshe did not go up the mountain because on Friday he already built the Mizbeach in the physical world, which is the Kedusha of post Matan Torah mitzvah. Was man nennt Avonim Gashmi, we took physical stone. When macht mit Berg la you make from the older than Kodesh Baruch. When there is a carbonus, and on that Mizbeach you bring carbonus. Which means, was man nennt Behema Gashmi, to make a physical animal. Was man nennt Aruma Behema Gashmi. You take a physical animal, und der Kravel on his back and put it on the Mizbeach. Where this Nikrav was Oifgehid, becomes brought close and uplifted from the Chayil, from ordinary. Business Ved Kedusha Begol becomes holiness in a revealed way. So the Mizbeach, the stone, has a Kedusha. The animal put on the Mizbeach also has a Kedusha. And you'll see later on in the Sikha, but at this point, it's really more about the Mizbeach than about the Kabbalah. Concludes the Rebbe, on their fad, this is the reason why, page 21, third paragraph, but they're yielding from Matantei to Be'erev. It's still Friday. The Torah is not going to be given till the next day. But on that Friday, there was still already the idea that tomorrow we would get the Torah in the opinion from Bana Mizbeach of Nikel Yeshua, that you don't recognize. What am I saying? Take that out. They did so many things that day, but the one that matters most is the Mizbeach. Because the Mizbeach comes to recognize the idea that even before the Torah is given, we can elevate physical things. And that's the Sikha. Now there's more to the Sikha. As you can see, I underline a lot more. So we have more to read. But the gist of the Sikha we have already. The gist of the Sikha is that the Gemara points out that of all the things Moshe did, the most important building is there. And then it says, why? Because that's the place where you're able to already elevate physical things when Torah was given. Now, God, you must understand something. When you learn a Sikha from the Rebbe, the one thing you never experience is having the questions without the answer. When you come to class, and I wrote all my scribble, right? And I don't keep you in suspense. But you have no idea how strong a question the Rebbe is asked. If you were a yeshiva bar, and you were learning Gemara, and you encountered this Gemara, many yeshiva bar have encountered this Gemara. One of the problems with yeshiva bar is that anytime the Gemara tells stories, they turn their brain off. This is like not important stuff. But it's deeply important. Moshe Rabbeinu spends the whole day getting ready for Matan Torah, the only thing the Gemara can mention is the Mizbeach and one carbon. That should bother any yeshiva bar. And it should bother him so much you'll be able to sleep. And I got a secret for you. You stay for 1,000 nights, you still wouldn't go in. But that makes it so easy that you don't even realize how incredibly creative this is. The whole story in the Chumash, of what happened that day, and the Gemara makes it a new story, which is not even written in the Chumash. And then, why did the Gemara do this? And then the Rebbe gives you the aha moment. Because the Gemara doesn't want to talk about all the things that happened that day, which are preparation. The Gemara wants, because they want to happen, which is already as if it's already been given. So this brilliant idea of the Rebbe, that of all the things that happened that day, everything minus the Mizbeach Moshe built with his own two hands is prefatory, it's preparation. The Mizbeach is a case in point of the Abish giving us the Torah already, even though we get it to the next day. And what's the Rebbe's source? What's the Rebbe's source of this radical idea? A Gemara. A Gemara. The Rebbe brings a Gemara and asks a very, very difficult question. The question is so difficult that most rabbis won't even ask it. They don't think it's important. And if they do ask it, they're not going to be able to answer it. But the Rebbe makes it so simple that you don't appreciate the genius. That's how the Rebbe Sikha work in general. When you learn a Sikha from the Rebbe makes his conclusion so obvious that you don't appreciate how difficult this was before there was an answer. Now let me just tell you something personal. When I was growing up, this was the Rebbe's typical style. The Rebbe would open up a Sikha and ask a bunch of questions. And then he would say, we'll get back to it later. Then he'd open up another discussion. Ask a bunch of questions. They will get back to it later.
Right.
And then there was a break, like 15 minutes. And although in the shul, the Chevra talking about, they never gave you time to mull it over. And he only answered the question for the Sikh after the longest break in every Fabrengen was between the questions and the answers. Because in that break, the Rebbe used to give a mashke to people who would get up in front of 770, make announcements about different events that they're doing. And after this long break, the Rebbe would say, now, let's go back to the questions. And when the Rebbe would give the answers, you could almost hear the collective sigh. Oh my God, are we stupid? But you never figured it out.
Really?
Never. You went to 200 Fabrengen. I must have heard the Rebbe say 200 Gilach. I don't think it's an exaggeration. Each week you said to yourself, this time, he's not getting out of it. No way. The question was so strong. Then he would come back to it. Within a half a minute, you could almost hear the woman saying, I can't believe I'm so dumb. Because it was so obvious. This sikh is so striking. Why? Because we spent so much time learning everything else. We did the 3 rows for 3 months. So when you get to the bagel, we appreciate the wonderment of the bagel because we spent so much time on the 3 rows, but they never point out the difference. The 3 rows are all about getting ready. The bagel is actually getting the credit of what they give it. And Moshe does it himself. Right?
What would you do during the day? Like,
We would talk.
every day and see. I feel like
We were standing, the bucket was standing. Nobody moved. In the Fabrengen, by the Rebbe, you didn't move because you didn't want to be on your spot.
yeah, that's what I was on.
So you sat there. So all over the shul, so the Rebbe is giving mashke to people, they're getting up. In every corner of the shul, the Bachar are whispering.
I was ready to.
He was giving out mashke to people. Every person would come up with a bottle of vodka who would give, let's say, you a dinner or a sima rambam or something collective, you know. And then would take from your mashke, put it into his becher, into his cup. Then he put it from the cup into the bottle and he would shake it around. Then he would give you a little l'chaim, and then you would make an announcement in front of the Rebbe about what you were going to do. There could be 20 people like that. That took a lot of time. During that entire time, people are obviously watching the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would listen to the speeches. Every person that made a speech, they would listen. But all over the shoulders, this whispering going on. And I remember this so often, you would just feel like, he's not answering it. No way, man. And then within 30 seconds of the new season, you could almost hear the room say, oh my God, I'm so stupid. This is one of those examples which is so striking. This chap, that it's not about the kabbalah, but the bad, changes everything. You would never think of it. But you know what? It's an explicit Gemara. It's not the al-shich. It's not it's not even the action. It's a Gemara. When you read that Gemara, you say, well, the Gemara doesn't really mean this. It means many karbanos. It doesn't mean one carbon. How would most people answer the Rebbe's question? Yeah, Moshe burned his back, but one carbon. It wasn't one. It's a bunch of karbanos. He didn't do it himself. They're not. You would sort of say, it's not literal. It's approximate, and it works with what we have until now. The Rebbe says if the Gemara says one carbon, it means one carbon. If it says he built it himself, he built it himself. And when you use the Gemara's words exactly, you start to see the creativity. The chap of this secret is that it's not about the Kabbalah, it's about the Mizbeach. And the Rebbe just told us why. The one thing that kept Moshe off the mountain wasn't the fact that he was busy, but because this Mizbeach is like post-Matan Torah Kabbalah. And you'll find out next week why it keeps him up for you. Right.
I don't know, I'm thinking what is different about the Gemara for Chumash, because in Chumash it says, "Vayidon Mizbeach
Right.
Safar,"
Keep reading.
which stands for, it's.
Vayishlach es nari b'nei Yisrael. He sends the lads, the B'chorim. Vayalu, they brought the Kabbalah, it's not Moshe, right?
Oh, it doesn't say that Moshe brought.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, right, the Chul of the fun.
Now, what would happen if the Gemara simply said, Moshe built him his bath? Stop.
Now we were thinking it's the same, that like
It
everybody.
is the same.
Yeah,
It is the same.
yeah.
But first of all, you would still not understand how building that Mizbeach
It's not.
is so much more important than anything else. By him bringing that one carbon, What the Rebbe is doing is explaining that Moshe brought one carbon to serve the Mizbeach, not that the Mizbeach should serve the one carbon. It highlights that it's about the stones, not about the animal. That's what it's highlighting. And once you hear the Rebbe say it, it's so obvious. In a million years, you would think it. Okay, in a million years, maybe, but in 100,000 years, you wouldn't think it. I'll see you in a week. Happy Purim. Ja, für den Tag, you speak Yiddish. The Varadi in Yiddish. The Havaradu sit. I'm sorry.
Oh, but I have to say,
Okay,
I won't be in your class next week. I have a wedding
I'm already depressed.
in Montreal. But Mitzvah, I'll try and watch
Okay.
the class.
Ich Yiddish, ich speak gesund. Wenn ich go to your own house and I go to the show, it should be a being of the yard, to be healthy and peaceful and fruitful and successful. Man, do we need a lot of stuff. Are you going to California or not? That what it is, to buy tickets. It wasn't the Barley that said stay home. I be joking, Mom. Okay, you want to get back your copy? On the what?
The Hamantashen.
On the Hamantashen.
Rabbi included himself, because never he's been uploaded it, so. I think you should be.
He said he's not gonna upload it.
Oh, he said he's not? No, he
Yeah.
said,
No, he said he's not.
Monday afternoon, he said he might.
Like when I went with,
He said maybe.
in class.
Guess he'll think about it. I think he said he's gonna be.
When does Rabbi Glick teach here?
Mondays.
Rabbi Glick is Rabbi Majeski's son-in-law.
Yeah.
I did not.
10:30. So,
Rabbi Glick is a Chassidish young man.
Mm.
He's a Hasidic young man.
and Rabbi Gluck comes a little bit late, and then
I
one time,
come a lot.
yes, and one time he came more late than usual, and he was like apologizing, so he said, don't worry, like Rabbi Paltiel comes even later. So he said, he made a joke about maybe like, it's, proportional, like the later you are, the better teacher you are.
I don't know about
So
that,
one
but
time
okay.
he came even later, and he said, maybe I'm finally catching up. to Rabbi
Very good
Paltiel."
teacher. The reason I'm late, honestly, is because I prepared these classes before davening. And sometimes, by the time I finish preparing, I have so little time to daven.
Mm.
I mean, in the morning before I leave my house, I do preparations, but then I do preparations again after I give my class to the boys in the yeshiva. That's what I do. But if the material is easier to prepare, I come sooner to that bunch of davens. Like hopefully next week I'm a little earlier than I came this week, because I already prepared the season, but we'll find out. We will